It's funny, I always thought that Michael Myers was just a story. Just some boogeyman created by Hollywood to scare people. Someone to watch on Halloween night with friends while you laugh and eat popcorn. None of us ever thought we'd actually come face to face with him. We'd be the ones running for our lives. From a mass killer that's supposed to be fiction. Well, that's how it happened. That's how I lost my friends one by one. And how I became the last one standing. Standing isn't quite right. In the end, I didn't stand. In the end, this is how I died. But before I get into that, let me introduce you to everyone. Maybe it'll help you understand just how much we had no clue what we were walking into. There's Jake, my best friend since middle school. He's the one who got us into this mess in the first place. Always up for anything dangerous, he thought it'd be fun to track down the real Myers house. The guy was obsessed with Halloween. The movies, the lore, everything. When we found out that the house in Illinois, where Michael Myers grew up, still stood, he thought we should visit. For the thrill. Sarah was Jake's ex, but you wouldn't know it. They still acted like they were together, even though they broke up every other month. She came along because deep down, I think she still cared about it. She always had this practical side, though. The one that said, this is a terrible idea. But Jake convinced her anyway. He always did. Mia, she was different. Quiet. But not in a shy way. More like she was always thinking about something. Always watching everyone else. I had a thing for her for months. I never told her. Maybe this trip was going to be my chance to finally do that. To let her know. I wanted her to know how beautiful she was. How much I liked her. I thought maybe this weekend would be the moment. And Ethan, the clown of the group. He's the guy who laughs at everything, cracks jokes at the worst times, even when things get serious. Ethan wasn't scared of anything, or at least that's what he wanted us to believe. He came along for the laughs, for the idea of a haunted road trip. The horror stuff didn't bother him, until it was too late. Then there's me, Tyler. I'm not the leader, I'm not the planner. I just go along with whatever my friends are doing. That's how I ended up in the Myers house, thinking it'd be fun, maybe a little scary. I didn't believe in any of it, and that's how it started. This is how I died. We all piled into Jake's car for what was supposed to be a simple road trip. Illinois. Haddonfield, really. Smith's Grove. The place where Michael Myers was supposed to have lived. We were excited. Well, Jake was excited. He couldn't stop talking about how cool it was going to visit the house, take pictures, post them online. It was just supposed to be a joke, a fun story to tell people later. But when we got there, things changed. Smith's Grove felt wrong. The town looked dead, like time had forgotten it. Quiet streets, old houses that hadn't been touched in years. It was almost like a ghost town. And there, on the edge of town, was the Myers house. It looked exactly like the movies. Run down, windows boarded up, the paint peeling off the walls. The front door hung loosely on its hinges, creaking every time the wind blew. I wasn't scared, not yet, but the vibe was off. I felt the second we pulled up, but I didn't say anything. Jake, of course, was all smiles. "Guys, this is it," he said, hopping out the car. "The real deal." "Can we just take some pictures and leave?" Sarah asked, her arms crossed over her chest. She wasn't into all this. Jake ignored her and headed for the door. We followed. What else were we gonna do? I stayed close to Mia, hoping maybe I'd get a chance to talk to her alone later. I couldn't stop thinking about her, about how maybe this trip could turn into something good. We stepped inside the house, and it was like stepping into a time warp. The air smelled like dust and mold, and every step we took made the floor creak under our feet. There were broken pieces of furniture scattered around, and the walls were stained yellow from years of decay. It was creepy, yeah, but we were still just messing around, taking pictures, making fun of the whole thing. That's when things went wrong. It started with Ethan. We were exploring the upstairs bedrooms, Jake going on about how this was where Michael Myers killed his sister, when Ethan decided to play a prank. He ran ahead, slamming the door of one of the rooms and screaming like he'd seen something. "Dude, seriously?" Jake laughed, rolling his eyes. "Not funny." But then Ethan didn't answer. His scream kept echoing in the hallway, louder this time, more real. "Ethan?" Sarah called out, walking toward the door. I grabbed Mia's hand, my heart pounding for real now. Something fell off. I could see it in Mia's face too. Her wide eyes, the way she'd held onto me tighter. Sarah reached the door and pushed it open. Ethan was on the ground, his body twisted in a way that didn't make sense. Blood pooled around him, soaking the dusty floor. Standing over him, like a shadow come to life, was Michael Myers. The mask, the knife, everything. It wasn't some movie prop either. It was him. Real, flesh and blood. And he just killed Ethan. Sarah screamed. Jake froze, and Mia, she squeezed my hand so hard I heard her pull me toward the stairs. "Run!" I yelled, snapping Jake out of his shock. He grabbed Sarah's arm, dragging her down the hallway as Michael started to move. Slow, but steady, just like in the movies. We ran, down the stairs, out the front door, into the night. For a second, I thought maybe we'd made it. Maybe we'd escaped. We ran through the quiet streets, trying to find help, trying to find anyone. We saw a house with lights on, an old couple sitting on the porch. I sprinted towards them, shouting, "Help us, please!" They didn't understand. They just stared at us like we were crazy. I tried to explain, tried to tell them there was a killer after us, but before I could say another word, the old man stood up, and there was Michael, standing right behind him. The knife flashed, and the man was dead before he even hit the ground. The woman screamed, but Michael didn't care. He stepped toward her, and then she was gone too. Her throat slashed in one clean motion. Mia grabbed my arm, her voice shaking. "We need to keep running, Tyler." We ran again past the dead bodies into the neighborhood, but it didn't matter. Michael was always there, always coming, no matter how far we got. Sarah was next. She and Jake had been running ahead of us, trying to make it to the car, but Michael caught her. I heard her scream, and when I turned, she was on the ground, blood pouring from a wound in her stomach. Jake standing frozen in shock. Jake tried to fight, tried to punch Michael, but there was no use. Michael didn't even flinch. He grabbed Jake by the throat, lifting him off the ground like he was nothing. And with one swift motion, he snapped his neck. I couldn't even process what I was seeing. They were both dead just like that. Mia pulled me away, tears streaming down her face. We were the only ones left. We ran, hiding between houses, ducking through backyards, trying to stay quiet, trying to keep breathing. For a moment, I thought maybe we'd lost him, that maybe we had a chance. We found an old shed behind one of the houses and slipped inside. I held Mia close, her body trembling against mine. I could feel her heart racing, her breaths coming in shallow gasps. "Tyler," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I don't want to die." "You're not going to," I said. Well, I didn't believe it. I held her tighter, my own fear mixing with something else, something that had been building up since the moment I met her. I kissed her. I don't know why I did it, but in that moment, with everything falling apart around us, it felt right. She kissed me back. For a brief moment, everything else disappeared. We continued to kiss, and I said, "If this is my last night, let's make it special." She started to remove her clothes, and it finally happened. Minutes later, we laid there and forgot about the night. But it didn't last. The door creaked open, and Michael was there, standing in the doorway, his knife gleaming in the dim light. "No," I whispered, pulling Mia behind me. "No." He began searching for us. Movements, quiet movements. We continued to the opposite direction of the route Michael took, heading straight for the door. And we almost made it. I tell Mia to stay put as I attempt to open the heavy door. Michael's intelligent. He boarded the door so we couldn't leave so easily. I struggle for a movement until I finally get it open. I look back over to Mia to signal her to come along. Before she was able to get a good start, A knife plunged into Mia's chest before I could even react. Her eyes widened, her hand reaching for mine as she collapsed to the ground, blood pooling around her. I lost it. I charged at Michael, fists flying, trying to hurt him, trying to stop him, but to no avail. Stronger. So much stronger. He threw me to the ground like I was nothing, his boot pressed down on my chest, the knife raised high. And this is how I died. Fighting for the girl I finally had, but losing her anyway. Fighting against a monster I didn't believe in until it was too late. A knife came down, with the force of a truck being slammed onto my chest. Michael did his famous head tone. Afterwards, he began to walk away. As he was walking, a tall hooded figure was walking toward me slowly, menacingly. And finally, when the hooded figure was upon me, he reached down, and everything went black. So, if you ever think about chasing legends, visiting places like the Myers house, let me give you some advice. Don't.